as we were discussing in our previous episodes, being yourself mindfully. So it's all about one, that whole inner child. With a whole 3-year-old heart, you are easily able to identify tainted judgment and or judgments of your own as well as others, as well as those biased, unhealed, trauma projecting people. So when we meet Cuscos, we don't do what Cuscos do, because those are called adaptive child patterns and or parts, and maladaptive. So really, if you are a person who's looking forward to healing your trauma charges and to uncharge them, then you want to be with grown-ups who are functional adults, inner child adults. So we don't say, you can't say it that way. We don't do what is casting of a stone on this lovely 1111 portal. Again, science and spirituality come together to let me know what I learned as in my catechism. No casting stones. Don't play God. Be humble. Remember that your brothers and sisters are made just the way they want. No, just the way they're supposed to be made. But remember how science explains with determined that they've been determined, though, in their first 3 years of life are important. And that they can get healed with good therapy, EMDR, child parts work, somatics, and or sensory motor. And that the 7 and 14 charming, who are in shame, blame, fault, revenge, and want to continue the survival, all that, yeah, they're there for the ones who don't want to learn to be in the state of forgiveness. So they don't want mindfulness, non-reactivity. They don't do any of what we do here, empowered people. And so again, when you are identifying them, it's not because you're going to go and engage with them. So if you're wanting to heal trauma, the number one thing, so being with healthy self-worth people means that you are able to put your ego to the side and not take things personally. So if I have different opinions politically, religiously, all of it, and you are also able to handle because you want, not because you have to, and it's called emotion. Don't lie. You don't have to lie, because that's the part where people, when they lie to themselves, you see them pretending to be grown-ups, but they're also pretending a lot of other things, and in particular it's show yourself, I'm dying to meet you. So I got to meet a lot of Elsa journeys. Yes, I can notice, because their brain, the ego, is talking. Their mind is not online, because they don't have both sides, because their emotions are tainted immediately with breakage, and they're not saying, hey, hold on a minute, let me pause with mindfulness, be myself. And myself, though, is going to be first. So a whole self, core, narrative, relational, solo self. It's only once you own those child parts, observe, witness, narrate, and they're uncharged. When they're uncharged, now we got a grown up in the room, and it's called a functional adult. Otherwise we don't. We have a Cusco in the room, and that's an adaptive child, and they will do everything in their power to make sure that they have the unbridled self-expression room. Their nervous system is already dysregulated. As Terry Real points out, they're going to want to control the situation. They're going to want to prove they're right or wrong, so they're not in the interaction with anyone, not intellectually, not emotionally, none of those actual genuine building social engagement relationships are being involved in an equation. So when you have healthy self-worth people instead, you're going to have a person who doesn't project anything to you. They will share their subjective opinion. Doesn't mean we have no we all have biases, implicit, explicit. This is why when somebody says, hey, you learn how to pause yourself, notice. Also, here's where with self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, I'm going to let you know there's some people, they're actually dysregulated, and they're doing what they're doing on purpose, and sometimes they're not. This equation is none of our concern for those of us who are pachas, because we now know we have two potentials. A human being has for real been offended, upset, whatever, or they're projecting their unhealed trauma, trust breaks, all their shit. And in either cases, I get the free will, determined or not. Here's where God comes in, and here's where Dr. Daniel Siegel comes in, and here's where I come in to say, an empowered person, you know what we love to do? I love to be able to let you know how easy it is to self-regulate my nervous system as I'm getting yelled at in my face by Caring Connection while shit's coming up, because it's one, no, it's not. I know exactly what shit's coming up because it's from my stuff, my past. It's called no thoughts, images, sensations, images, affects, meanings, behaviors. I'm laughing because it's hilarious. I can still remember that moment. It was like a big wave, tsunami, and I'm like, okay, you can't come out right now. This person's pissed. Some shit went down. I already knew something. And today the word is a person who has abandonment, rejection, injustice, humiliation, shame, a very big wound. And that's called also the red. Thank you, Stephen Porges. It's not yellow. Yellow is a person who's trying to pick at me, quote unquote, because they just feel like they want to get a rise out of someone today because that's how their broken 3-year-old is feeling. The 16-year-old wants to get shit going on. So when you don't have the whole 1-year-old, 0-1, and the whole 3-year-old, and you're not a person who knows the love button, inner child adult here, that's why you're going to play out something very different. 3 to 7 is shame submissive. So when I see the fancy woman and man in suit, they're not anything that I consider threatening. No. And they're not even in my book a 7 to 14 charming. They are, but they're not. They are because I know what they're doing, but they're not because I also know that the ones who go to hear them, they want to play life the way that they are. They want to stay in their teenage Cusco attitude, which is why we have 2 groups. And we will consistently have, as our human species evolves and consciousness expands, the opportunity, which is why I love you, Robert Sapolsky, but determined. There's not a life without free will. There's a life without free will for those who lack the awareness of their self and don't go and get it healed with good therapy, but then there's those of us who talk about it. Okay, so being yourself mindfully is really awesome. Identifying tainted, judgment, and biased, unhealed, trauma projecting people. Great again, because that way you don't need to waste any of your time. Because seriously, Cusco's not there to engage with you. They're not there because they're interested in the conversation in and of itself. They're there in the moment, reactive, and that's it, which is why indifferently from whether it's on purpose or not, who gives a shit? It's still a person who is going to be, at the end of the game, a coward to a healthy self-worth person. You know why? Because they just projected that shit, and they don't know how to regulate their own emotional plane or mental into grown up. They don't know how to behave appropriately. I'm not going to speak to a person who doesn't know how to be a leader of their self. Why would I? You don't own your own mind, body, or brain. You don't own anything, like the Zen master with his laundry. He doesn't own his emotions. Of course I can learn from him. I won't be able to learn Zen mastery, that's for sure. I'm learning from Sadhguru. Yeah, Sadhguru. Jesus, God. Yep, that's pretty much Dr. Daniel Siegel. All the scientists, the smart ones. But what my point is, it's also about forgiveness. So love, all 8 billion, not being a person who speaks it only, but you feel it. When I was in the class with Sadhguru, one of them, it was, I think, Shambhavi Kriya, where he begins to have us promise to unconditionally love all people. But he begins with one. I kind of had a hunch of where he was headed with that. I already promised to love, to God, Holy Spirit, because catechism to me was taught about us being one. It was not taught to me to be a monster human being. And what I see is not the Catholic or Christian or any of those other religions. The faith is actually here. And it's sad for me to see institutions after institutions throughout our history not come together and embrace the umbrella of spirituality. The reason that there are divisiveness is because of ignorance, that's all. And refusal, though, by those who don't hear well. Now, I know the 4D, they like their conspiracies. I don't do that. I do intelligence, and I know that the individuals who, yeah, I know who are the smart ones. And by knowing where we come from, I know exactly how the left mode of the brain works. Also, we're collective, as I was saying, so I don't have questions. I have blind faith and the capacity to understand dark matter, dark energy. And you can only expand consciousness, well, if you have opportunity to choose. The world is full of a rainbow of colors. Meantime, being yourself mindfully, it's very fun. And so coming over to meet healthy self-worth people, to put into practice mindfulness daily and mindset with the inner growth, great. If, on the other hand, you want to pretend to be mindful, there's a Zen master for you. And also, if it's hard for you to do thoughts and emotions, that's why therapists are good first. Also, when people are telling each other, how dare you use that word, how dare you use that word, I met this in college, and I was surprised that I was meeting it in a setting that is academia. What I realized is it's not academia and it's not the streets. If you got a mature human being, you're going to get actual conversation. If you have a human being who knows their own self-worth, humbleness, so they have integrity. And I'm going to use this story before we head on over to our, we have mystic messages. after this one. Okay, for my mystics and for those who do enjoy spiritual channeled guidance, food for thought. So it's channeled. I have all of it prepared. So I am a person who doesn't judge. I have my own opinions. They're not charged. And my own opinions don't matter because I'm one human being. I know where I do matter, which is when I go and do voting and do what I can and I participate in the streets. That's it. Whenever somebody wants to talk to me about something, I'm not interested in the proving shit. That's something ridiculous. And now that I even know it's an adaptive child, makes it even more ridiculous. So I'm uninterested in that. I'm interested in genuine relationships, getting to know my loved ones, so having conversations with them. That's where we love, accept, respect each other with our differences. Remember, pacha. So being yourself mindfully is a pacha. Friends with all. That's it. And when we don't want to be friends with you, we won't. And we won't feel ashamed, guilty, or bad no matter what. And who comes and tells you you're too rigid? Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't want to be friends with that person. I don't have to. The world is big. Okay? But you know how to behave. If you can't say something nice, you say nothing. And also keep that left mode shut and also work with the heart. So when people are pretending, any person who is a healthy self-worth individual with an integrated brain, the restorative embodiment self, oh, I can tell you, I can spot it like a hawk, but I'm not doing anything about it because I don't give a shit about a person who doesn't take ownership of their disowned parts, shadow parts, all of their stuff, and they're throwing it in a room. I met them all when I was a teenager. It's unkindness. It's not evil. It's a person who doesn't even know they have mustard on their chin. So they don't hear their tone. They don't hear their, I'm not going to bother with it because if they heard any of themselves, then they wouldn't be bringing that to me. Again, I give you from my past experiences since teenager and college, and I'm busy with people who want to build relationship, not telling you how to behave, not behave. I'm not any of that.